let's start with who am I. I'm a Java developer for a long time. I have done web development, and I was really curious about mobile when it exploded, although I wasn't really very interested in Java ME by that time. I'm working in Intel as an Android developer. I'm an Eclipse committer. I have a book coming out, not on Android, but still. By the time, I'm also organizing GDG Istanbul, so very familiar with these events, and this one was pretty good. GDG Kiev did a very good job. And finally, I try to attend conferences and speak about stuff I like. Let's start the presentation. So, what's new with Lollipop? Who here remembers the old times like Froyo or anything with 2 point? Okay. After 2.x, Honeycomb came out, and Honeycomb was a bit new UI and UX. It introduced new stuff, but it was only for tablets. So after Honeycomb, Ice Cream Sandwich has released, and it combined the tablet and phone experience into a new operating system. So the most important stuff with Lollipop is it's for the first time really combining the whole TV, tablet, VR, and glass. So it's offering a new UI, a new user experience, the material design, and faster VM, better tools since Android Studio is getting more mature each day, and we also have new Nexus devices. We even heard about the Nexus player, which probably is the new version of Android TV. So, but still there's more. So I'll be talking about actually 4 different topics. First, our current world, the tablets and phones. Next, almost the coming future, the VR devices, glass and watches. Then I'll talk a little about Android TV and auto. So, what's new for the phones and tablets? First, we have a new VM, the Art Virtual Machine. It looks much faster. Anyone tried ARM with the old version of Android? Cool. So if you're doing a lot of GNI stuff, some stuff may not work out of the box, but most of the Java code usually works. With Art, there's a new garbage collector which works much efficiently than the previous one. So we have a better battery life with Lollipop, which is good. I have 2 different external batteries in my backpack, and I'm always almost plugged all the time with all the devices. And finally, it's getting more professional in terms of the UI and UX. When iPhone first came out, it had the good-looking UI, but Android didn't really start it that way. If you used Cupcake or Donut and just go back and check your phone, you will realize the UI was not the best. But Android offered some other stuff from the first day. It was multitasking, services, and intents, which iOS is just getting. So now it's time for Android to really catch up with the sleek, sexy UI. So here comes the material design. Material design, I've seen the talks from the morning till now, so you have heard about a lot, and there are a lot of good resources you can read about it. So I'll not go into details, but it's much like designed on paper and on real life with bold graphics, flat layout design, but still has the elevation and the real feeling. So there are new transitions, styles, typography, icons. You can find the whole set of new guidelines in the Android developer website. So if you're planning to have nice looking applications on the new version, also it comes with the compatibility pack. So even with the older versions, while extending your application to Wear devices and maybe Auto in the future, you need to migrate to material design. So it's worth to have a look at. So let's come to the glass. You already have a lot of phone talks. Google Glass is still not really widely adapted. It's like a pet project. Now it's available in the UK. So you can see some people walking around in the street, but not all the time. So it's barely still socially acceptable. When you go into a bar or sit with friends, people may still freak out if you're recording or taking their pictures. So I don't always with my glass on, and but still it's a lot of fun, and you can take selfies. Actually, the cam is pretty good. It's much better than the one in my phone. So there are two different ways to develop for glass. Anyone ever tried to do anything for glass? Sorry? Okay. Yeah, there are some tricks, but yeah. Okay. There are two different methods you can follow for glass. One is Glassware. Actually, they are web apps. So it's just like pushing a web page into someone's glass. And the other one is the GDK, so it's the native development environment. Let's talk about the JDK. If you're an Android developer, it's the easiest path, since it's almost the same development environment. And there are some tricks to make your phone work like glass if you don't have one. Things you need to consider is you don't have a touch screen on the glass. There is a touch panel on the side, but still, it's not for playing Angry Birds. So you need to keep the input as simple as possible to not make the user go crazy. It has a very limited CPU and battery life. So if you're planning to do heavy processing stuff, you will probably kill the battery. They released some games and pushed it with the software update. I was very curious, started playing, and after 20 minutes, the battery was flat, so I left my glass on the wall charging. The way to integrate your apps with Glass is using actions. Glass doesn't really, it has a text list which acts like a menu, but it's not actually a application list like you have on your phone. So instead, you register some actions like, okay, I want to start a run. You may have several applications which is good for running, but it's just like the one on your phone. You have one default one, and if you say, okay, start a run, you actually start your application, and it can track your exercise. So you need to find an action for your application, not like the previous phone or tablet approach, like clicking the icon and starting your application. It has a simple flow, and it should have a simple flow because most of the time people are walking, driving, or cycling when they're using the glass. So, and the input is, as I mentioned before, really limited. So you don't really want to create a very complicated flow. And you need to have less interaction. So there are two major inputs. One is voice, and the second is the touch panel. You can do some stuff with Wink, but this is the user experience. So the user expects to use the glass by voice, and time to time you can also have some interaction with the touchpad. So a simple flow works like you wake the glass, you either tap on the side or tilt your head and then say, okay glass, and talk about your action, which then fires your application, and your application can display something. Those UI elements are built on cards, so your application just puts a card on the screen, and then you can still interact with the user, either go back to another card or start listen for another action. Then so it's something like a flat line going back or forward, but most of the time a very simple flow. By the way, I lost the monitor. There's some Wi-Fi configuration stuff. Okay, so what Glass is not is, it's not a mobile phone. So you don't have a full screen, you don't have a touch screen, and you shouldn't really behave and pretend like you are still writing a mobile app. Glass is a whole new UI, a whole new user experience. If you're coming from a web background, like me, you may also have another option to build applications for Glass. So, anybody tried doing any glassware? So, okay, if you say you don't have any emulator and you already have some web knowledge, it's pretty easy. It has a auth-based authentication system, so your app does some Google sign-in, and then voila, you have the you can push the cards into the Glass. And the best thing is you can just try it in your browser instead of using the real Glass. But still, there are things you need to consider. One is you have a small screen. You're not displaying a whole web page, so try to fit things into a small screen. And don't try to render a fancy web page with a lot of text and, I don't know, graphics. There are some starter applications on the Glass website. Last time I checked, it was Java and Python. I don't know if they added something new. If you prefer, we have an open source project on GitHub called Glassmaker. It's an Eclipse set of Eclipse plugins. It's open source and it's already integrated with the Spring security. So you don't. The most challenging part with writing Glassware is handling the security, because you need to store the tokens and just complete the whole OAuth process. With Glassmaker, you can easily just build something and use the embedded security templates. It has card templates and it has an emulator. It was pretty simple since the cards were just HTML pages. We could just show how it would look on glass. And the nice thing is, as long as you signed in the same Google account, you can just remote deploy your app to your glass. So you don't need to even plug your glass. So Android Wear. So this is taken from a Google slide set, and the point of glass and Wear is to make the time you're spending with interaction smaller. So you can have more time and not distract the people who are around you. Because when you get a message or any notification, you just look at your watch or your glass and dismiss it. And the funny thing is, when you first got a wearable device, you realize almost 80% of your phone wake-ups are useless. You just dismiss and continue your life. So, Android Wear doesn't replace your phone. It doesn't have the 3G connection. It's just an add-on and extension to your phone. It uses Bluetooth, but surprisingly, it improves your battery life of your phone, because you don't wake up your phone as much as you used to be. Instead, you just look at your watch and dismiss, and you only start using your phone if the notification or the action is really relevant. You can't make phone calls. You tend to use maybe a little more data, but for me, it's not really very different. So what Android Wear is not is, it's not a small phone. So you again, just like glass, you shouldn't just pretend you will have a smaller phone screen which you need to squeeze as much. So instead, you just build simple and easy to follow stuff into your glass app. So you need to just be you need to not distract the user. Instead, you need to just give the notification or the info when it's needed, and it needs to be sharp just for that moment, timely, and later you need to dismiss. Let me just pass those, and okay, I think this there was a newer version, so I can later publish that online probably. There was a code here. So what you need to do is actually just add a small line in your manifest, then it can automatically just send notifications to Wear. The nice thing about Wear notifications are they work automatically, and if you want a notification only appear on Android Wear, it's just one line, and it's pretty simple. So to start with developing for Wear, you just need to add the support library, then add the action to your manifest, and just do some simple coding. Those are all taken from the website, so I'm just fast forwarding. So this would be, okay, that should be the code in the previous part. So if you want a notification to only appear on Android Wear, all you need to do is to use the wearable extender. So this way you can just migrate your notifications to use only Wear. That's something I did when I first received the watch. I wanted to build my own watch face, so it was much simpler than I expected. What you do is actually create an activity which would create a watch view stop, and then you need to update the timer each time. Each time means each seconds or minutes, depending on the design of the clock. So, and you need the manifest file. So, Android TV. It started with Google TV. If you ever had chance to try or see, I don't know. I was at Google I/O that year, and we were pretty excited. It didn't really get popular. Then 2 years after we got Nexus Q, it was another attempt, and it doesn't really work too. I still have it, and it has some nice colors, but yeah, not much content or anything. What's new with Android TV is it has a new. It's based on the old versions, but it's a new iteration. So it's fixing stuff in the which didn't work on the previous versions. It has a better UI, and the UX is still similar with the whole Android family. It has a gamepad, which is pretty nice because it's much easier to control your TV system with a gamepad, and you can play the games more interactively. The problem is it doesn't have much titles, which might stop people to buy the device, which might stop the publishers to publish titles to the device. So it's like a chicken egg problem. And one other problem is the movies and music. I heard music is available in Ukraine. In Turkey, we don't have both, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense if you don't have the movies and the music. The new Nexus player is the commercial version of the Android TV. Probably it will encourage more apps and will get more popular. At first, you'll have a good screencasting device. So, one thing I noticed, I was one of the early adapters, so I had chance to play games with my Android TV, but with the latest updates, some games start putting more ads, and to close an ad, it's much harder on the TV than your mobile device. So I think also the software publishers need to work on the user experience. So I'll just fast forward. You can check the SDK, and it's almost very similar to phone because our phones have such huge densities, screen resolutions. Almost TVs are now lower resolution ones. So as long as you manage to handle the non-touch screen controls, it's pretty straightforward. With Android Auto, it's pretty new, and is it still early to move to Android Auto? What I'm guessing is a long list of car manufacturers are supporting it, so the move will be fast. So you may be surprised that one day suddenly most cars support Android Auto. The system actually works very much like your wearable watch, because you just need to not distract the user, but just give timely notifications to the user. So it's good for giving fast notifications, and easy and not really challenging interactions. It's definitely not for games or video streaming or rich UI. You don't probably want to display a whole web page. It's definitely not for typing while driving. And again, definitely not for reading something from the screen for a long time. But it can be pretty good for POI-based search or listening something like an audiobook or some navigation help. And it can also integrate with the car and let you know about how to drive more greener and save fuel. So Android Auto can get more popular pretty fast with the huge number of supporting the brands. My talk is actually about it's all over, and I'm more happy to get questions and do interaction. You can reach me at Twitter or my email account. So let's see about questions. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it really makes any sense? How do you change?
You mean just you?
They both do the same functionality.
Okay. They don't do the same functionality. By the way, it's hard to open this one, so I'll give you a lollipop. So, if in terms of notifications, yeah, they are just the same, and you might be not happy to get vibrated from your arm, then your head, then your phone, which time to time happens to me. But the applications and the experience is all different. For example, you can have a pretty good navigation experience on glass, but not on your watch. Because on the watch, it's like only giving you some info about the map. Also, I mean, except for the notifications, it's almost all different. Even the player, the music player, or the fitness apps, they all tend to work differently and have different user experience. But for the notifications, I agree. It's just the same.
Well, as I understood, the only way to launch an application on Google Glass is send some command. How can I register my own command to launch my custom application?
Oh, it's pretty easy. You just, when you create a Glass project, you just decide on a action and register it as a voice command. It's very simple to an Android application. You have a manifest and you just register the text which will display it on the list, and also the action command which will be listened by the system when it is on the listening mode. Then it will just fire up your activity. Yep.
So, yes, mic is here. Another cutting-edge technology right now is home automation, which is not yet fully inside the Google stack of technologies. And Apple recently announced that Apple TV will get support for HomeKit. Do you think Android TV might get this kind of functionality at some point, or Google will somehow else introduce this technology?
I'm not sure, but I mean, Android TV is not the first attempt. I told you they tried it before and it didn't really work out. This time it may, because Google is known to be learned from their mistakes. To be honest, I have an Apple TV and an Android TV. what I do on my Android TV is more like playing games, and I use Apple TV for watching TV shows. In future, it may just change. I'll prefer to have one device and one account instead of two, but hard to guess. If more TV manufacturers integrate Google TV in TVs, then that might be a game changer, because come on, we all have smart TVs, and does anyone really use the smart features of the smart TV? Okay.
Hi, I actually have a question about Google Auto or Android Auto. So when I was driving my car, I had my Nexus with tuned on GPS and also my music, and my battery was discharging faster than charging. From what I know from this Android Auto, like my phone will do all the same, but also will stream data to like auto system. Like, will it have problems with its battery life, or will it be better? Do you know?
Well, it will be connected to the car, so it will probably, I don't have the technical details, but it will probably get charged by the time it's connected to the car with a wire. You're right, because on Android Auto, the main functionality will be actually hosted on the phone, but streamed to the car. So it's still early, but it looks promising, because cars don't really have huge hardware integration. They just need the screen and the casting from the Android, and everyone already has the Android device. So if the car manufacturers just give the infrastructure, it should just work out of the box.
Okay, 2 last questions, because we have some limitations in time.
And lollipops for questions.
Okay, I have just 2 questions. First one...
Just one lollipop.
Okay. So first one is, you mentioned that you couldn't make a call with your watch, but I'm wondering if I can initiate a phone call if I'm using a Bluetooth headset without turning on my cell phone, just from watch.
You can't, because it doesn't have 3G.
No.
No SIM card.
I mean, I'm using my cell phone and Bluetooth headset.
Oh.
And when I see a notification, could I trigger a phone call?
Good question. Need to try, but I guess yes, you can, because just like Glass, it works with actions, and you can just say call someone. What it will do is actually trigger your phone to call, and since you have the headset, it should work, but of course need to try and test.
And a question about Google TV. Can I stream a video from my cell phone? Like I have an app and wanna just switch to watch some video on a TV, especially if link should have some cookies or other headers, because media player is a bit tricky in this case.
I'm not sure about the parameters, but usually streaming something to Android TV or Chromecast or any other old devices like Nexus Q works pretty good. I had no trouble so far, but I mean, it really depends on the content. If you just push the limits, we need to test and see if it really works. But I tend to use it for talks, presentations, or streaming other stuff. It just usually works.
Do you know how will be developed?
I can't see you. Oh, okay.
Hello, I'm here.
Yes.
I can stand up. Hello.
Okay.
Do you know how will develop a new kind of Android wear?
I couldn't get the question.
how will develop Android Wear? Do you know?
To develop something for Android Wear?
Yes.
Okay, so there are two things you can do. One is integrating your current phone app with a Wear device. So it's pretty straightforward. You just add the lines which I showed previously to your manifest file, and your notifications or cards will be pushed to the Android Wear. If you want to build a application which will be hosted on Android Wear, you can just follow the starter project in the Android Studio. It will create an Android Wear application with support for round or square watches. Then it's pretty much like building something for phone. It's an Android application, but the problem is you don't really have a huge screen where you can pinch or just move things around. So it's more like as a developer, you are just using the same tools, same language, and same UI components, but you need to use a different way to interact with the user. You need to change the way you think about building the app. So it's more like a psychological one than technical one.